What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scratch Agency podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. My name is Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Clinton, New York, and I'm joined by my co-host today, the one and only, you already know, hold your applause, Mr. Shawn Fitzgerald, founder of Sound Harbor Insurance in Long Island, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is brought to you by HawkSoft, your family-owned and operated agency management system serving independent agencies with teams from 1 to 300 plus employees. Elaine, an agency owner out of Washington, says that HawkSoft is the easiest to use and it has the most options that we can control. Mr. Fitzgerald, how are we doing today?
Great day. I'm looking forward to this conversation. We're going to be talking a lot about your tech stack in your agency specifically and auditing that. So we haven't done an episode like this before, so I'm excited to kick things off with Mike.
Yes, well, we have Michael Ley, who is the director of networks with HawkSoft. Michael, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. I'm here in Ohio, where it's pouring down rain right now. So wish I was somewhere else, but that's okay.
Listen, not often can I tell you it's nice and beautiful here in central New York to come over to if you want to take the trip out east here, because usually we can't. Usually we're in your shoes, either pouring, snowing, one of the above. But we got a nice day today. That's, you're all over the place, right? That's part of your role, is hitting up the different conferences and hitting the road.
Yeah, I'm one of the probably most traveled people at HawkSoft. So you never know where you're going to find me. Actually, today I'm in a hotel as we're recording this. So it just is what it is. So I travel a lot, but home on the weekends, which is always exciting. So
nice. So just before we get into the audit stuff and the tech and all that good stuff that we want to talk about, tell us your journey, how long you've been with HawkSoft, how you came into the insurance space and all that.
Absolutely. So way back when, my dad started an agency back in 1987 in Ohio. And I saw how, insurance agents worked at that time. And at that time, my dad was never home. He was still at the office till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. He'd get up, go do it all again, 7 a.m. in the morning. Right. And I thought, there's no way I want to do that with my life. And so I went into education and I was there for 3 years. I got laid off twice in that 3-year time frame. And that third year, they had a levy that failed. And so there were budget cuts coming. And so I said, you know what, this is my sign. And so ended up in the agency back then at that time in 2004, and was in the agency up until 2023 when I joined HawkSoft. So for about 22 years, I was at the agency, helping manage, run the agency and everything there. Got to know the HawkSoft family as our agency used HawkSoft. And at some point after COVID, I was like, you know what? It's time for a change. So I came on board with HawkSoft and worked specifically now with with agency networks and associations at the time. And recently that's changed to just focusing on networks as we hired somebody to do with the association. So it's a relationship game. So that's what we do, is we travel around, build relationships, help agencies out, and it's kind of fun. So it's taking me back to those roots of education, but also staying in insurance too.
Yeah, what I love about,
so that's the quick Reader's Digest version.
What I love about that is your agency experience, and I think that is the case for a lot of, as the listeners know, I'm on HawkSoft and a supporter, and I think that's a lot of the people on the team in different departments, different roles have that experience, which I think is huge, because with a lot of these companies, vendors, not just AMSs, anything, it's like you have to know the everyday and truly understand, as agency owners, CSRs, operators, whatever it is, what it's like to be inside of our walls in order to deliver a good product and service.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's like you mentioned, it's a pride that we have here at HawkSoft. Most people that you interact with are also going to be licensed agents as well. So, from your sales team down to your customer success manager, a lot of them have that agency experience and are licensed, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. So agency tech, what a topic. I think I just want to set the stage, Mike, if I can, because we've had a lot of conversations on the podcast. So I think we're on like the 160 episode mark. And I don't think we ever had a deep dive episode like we will today on agency tech, but we've had, sidebar conversations around what tech do you really need to get started with. And then I feel, well, let's put me in the hot seat here. You go through, what do I need to get started with? And then maybe you hit that first, second year of renewals and you're like, oh, I can now afford this, but do you really need it? Is it really solving a problem? Right. And then I'm at the point now where it's like, what can we cut? What can we use? Are we fully using our phone system? Does it have, this in it, that in it, that in it, that I can get rid of this. And I think that's the conversation that we're going to have today. But just want to set the table there for a little bit on kind of where we are as the podcast and the conversations we had around that.
Perfect. No, you're absolutely correct. When you start, there's certain things you need, but then we all kind of jump to that shiny tech syndrome. And then the other thing that I'm pretty sure we'll touch on is the education piece, where we learn when people come and switch to us from another system over to HawkSoft at times, they're saying, hey, this system never had this in it, or it couldn't do this feature, and that sort of thing. And in reality, it probably did. You just weren't aware of it. As tech continues to grow and expand and things like that. So those are some things we'll touch on today for sure.
I think one last thing before we dive deep into it, Shawn, you and I have talked a lot about this, is I think it's something too that when you get, through the first couple of years of your Scratch journey, to make 1 hour a month that you sit down and really look at it. And I want to tell a story about HawkSoft around that. I had a separate e-sign platform and then HawkSoft, and there's an e-sign platform that integrates with HawkSoft that the price is very reasonable, and it integrates and attaches to the documents, all that great stuff. I was so just head down and building the agency. I probably got, emails and notices of, hey, don't forget, you can integrate with this software to this and that, but just didn't pay attention to it. I think it saved me like $2,000 a year from changing that.
Yeah.
Not only the price standpoint, but made everything a heck of a lot easier with the integrations and into our processes and all that. So I just wanted to use that as an example, specifically with HawkSoft as we're talking about that. But Michael, where do we start? I guess is a good way to start this off. Where do we? I think no matter where you're at in your journey, year 1, year 5, year 10, where do we start when we say, hey, let's take a look at what tech we have and if we need to look at more, etc.
Absolutely. So the first thing that I like to say here is most agency owners think that they have a tech problem, and in reality, they have a visibility problem. They don't know what they're really paying for, whether their team is even using it, or whether it's doing anything for the bottom line that they have. And so during this process, most agencies will discover that they have like 3 to 5 tools they completely really forgot they were paying for. And we're not talking tiny charges or anything like that. Like you just mentioned, saving you $2,000, a year. We're talking like $40, $50, $80, $150 a month going out, and that's really on autopilot. It's like a subscription issue. We all have those subscriptions that we pay for, stuff like that, and you try to figure out, hey, what's coming out of my account? And so really, that's really going to be the first step, is to take that tech inventory and do that cost tracker. Pull 12 months of credit card statements, your bank statements, and list every recurring charge that you have coming out in tech, just specifically on tech. And that's going to build your true annual tech spend number. And once you have that in place, you're going to be able to see, okay, this is what I'm spending just in tech. But also it's going to open up the window to say, hey, this is a duplicate charge or duplicate thing, tech that we have inside the agency. So that's really the first thing. And most people will do this, right now. We're here in just starting the summer. I typically like to do it when I was in my agency. I would do it generally at the start of quarter 4 of every year, because then I could kind of have that end time frame of that, November, December timeframe, where I'm turning in that notice to say, hey, we're going to cancel our subscription with you. And then I'm starting the next year with, a clean tech slate, so to speak. So that's really my time that I would tend to do it. But every agency is going to be a little bit different. Just find that time that you want to do it annually, just to kind of run through the numbers again.
Yeah,
that's the first thing that I would always do.
That's a great point. I think, Stephen, you and I did that at a similar time, maybe a year ago, or maybe it's a few months ago. I don't even know at this point. But I remember I did this. I put it all into a Google Sheet, every single vendor, what the price was. And what was cool about that, to your point, I noticed like my Adobe, I was paying, so it's like embarrassing to even say, I was paying like $160 something a month for Adobe. And I'm like, why am I paying this much for Adobe? And I called them. I had like 3 licenses. I only needed 1. I was paying for like some crazy bundle that had Premiere Pro and all this other stuff built into it. And I basically got it down to like $14 a month. so that was eye-opening, but was also interesting about the process is I was able to call some of the vendors, and it was before the end of the year. Michael Cruz actually gave me the idea, and he was like, hey, contact the ones that are like a higher monthly payment and see if you can pay them in full for a discount. And that was a pretty big savings as well. So yeah, breaking it out onto a sheet and then checking it over once a month or once a quarter, I'm completely on page with you for that.
Absolutely. And I think like you mentioned, put it on a Google sheet, Excel sheet, whatever
Yep.
the case may be, but also figuring out the features that are there. What features is this tool utilizing? So we talked about HawkSoft, so your AMS. List your AMS out there and list all of the features that it has inside of it. Obviously, you got your downloads from your carriers. Maybe there's texting through your AMS. Maybe there is form e-signature. So list all those tools that are available inside the AMS, because you don't want to obviously duplicate that with another tech vendor out there. So list all of those features to make sure that you're either going to fill the gaps with another tech vendor, or you don't want to have things that are overlapping. We talk about texting. You can have texting in an AMS. You can have it through a CRM, and then you can also have it through your VoIP provider. And so if you're paying for it in all three, find the one that's already included and drop the other two. Type thing. So that's where, if you have that feature analysis really there in that Google sheet, Excel sheet as well, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, T5. Another one was a note taker. Like I had one of those AI note takers, and then I'm like, why am I paying for this separately? It's literally built into Zoom or Google Meet. Like it automatically transcribes it, puts it in a document, saves it in the cloud. That saved me like $40.
And you know what? Those features are getting a heck of a lot better in everything too. And I mean, I tell you what, those summaries on Zoom and everything, it makes sense. And actually with the VoIP providers now, a lot of them are starting to do
AI notes.
call transcriptions and stuff like that, and putting the call summaries back into your agency management system or CRM for you. So again, it's learning those things that are happening in that are coming new, those new features inside your already tech vendors that you have, and saying, hey, maybe we should try this out, rather than seeing what else, the new AI vendor that's out there.
Yeah.
T5, go. All right, I'll go. Have you talked to any agents that, since we're talking about tech, how do we not bring up AI? Have you talked to any agents that have implemented AI in what you would call an interesting way that you think would be worth sharing?
Implemented AI in an interesting way.
Into their tech stack at all?
Yes, I've seen it and talked with a couple agencies who some of the automation that they have coming really in regards to the renewal process with personal lines. That's where I see it heavily, not as much on the commercial line side of things, but implementing some of those things that are, looking 90 to 100 days out, 120 days out prior to the renewal, and starting to analyze that customer and utilizing some AI tools that are out there to say, hey, give me some specifics on maybe this location, this area of our state that have had more claims. What should I be looking at with this type of customer at the renewal, to have those renewal conversations, and really drafting up specific terms and things like that with that customer to say, hey, let's have that renewal conversation. And all of that's really AI generated prior to that review. Again, looking at uploading the policy deck page and saying, hey, are there any gaps that you're finding that I should help analyze or bring to light for that customer as well? So I'm seeing a lot of really cool things with agencies doing renewal processes, not as much on the new business side of things. Obviously, some of the back end things that agencies are having to do with accounting, things with tech and things like that. It's finding those things that you're not necessarily having to put your finger on. That's those time wasters in your agency, so you can spend more time with sales on your bottom line and reviewing things with customers.
Yeah. I think from a sales perspective on the commercial side, one way we're using it, not super outside the box, but like we're using it to like if we're cold calling commercial clients and we book an appointment, one of the things we'll do is we'll throw it into a project folder we have, and it basically is able to go to certain websites, because we're going after contractors specifically, and it'll pull off, like Home Advisor and all these different sites to see what, because the underwriter is going to look at all their reviews and look at their Facebook comments, all that stuff. So I'll have the AI pull a list of all that stuff to see if there's anything outside the box that I should know about for the appointment. Not super intuitive,
Absolutely.
but it's definitely something helpful, and it saves me from having to go to like 50 different websites to try to catch something from the underwriter. But T5, you want to go on the hot seat and have Mike do a little audit of your tech stack?
Let's do it, Mike. Open it up here.
Awesome. All right. So give me your top, write out or talk to us about your top 5 tools that you're currently using inside your agency right now.
Just so I can set the table. Shawn said, "You going to be all right doing this?" I said, "Yeah, I'm more nervous about what I'm going to forget that we have." So
I could probably call.
And that's part of the problem in the conversation.
Yeah.
All right. So top 5 tools. I'm going to write these down. Okay. So HawkSoft as our AMS. Agency Zoom as our CRM. Canopy Connect.
Oh, that's a good one.
For pulling reports. Risk Advisor. And then for a 5th, I'll put in Form Stack for the e-sign. And I'll put that a tie. I'll make 5 and 6 a tie with Form Stack and Ring Central.
Nice.
There you go.
Did you want the other 18 tools or just
I mean, you could list them all. I mean, we're going to analyze you really, really good then at that point, and find out exactly what you're using and not using. So let's talk about your HawkSoft. Let's do the AMS and CRM first. Yep. So as you're listing those or looking at those two, I'm hoping as we have this conversation, you have those two integrated right now, right? Yes. So they're integrating, they're documenting the client file. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Going to be some really cool things coming with that integration here too soon. Not
exciting.
Able to divulge that, but you'll be happy. So making sure that those two things are integrated there. Now, do you have a text? Are you using HawkSoft for texting? Any system inside of Agency Zoom for texting?
Ring Central is where we're texting, and it's
okay. So is that integrating with
it's yes
documenting?
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. So that's as I start to kind of work with agencies on this, I'm asking these questions because, hey, you want to make sure that you're obviously getting the documentation there, but also that it's integrating.
Mike, yes.
If it's not an integrated tool with anything that you're doing, it shouldn't be in your agency. Just FYI.
Yeah, I believe that. And Mike, what would you say? Because I found myself recently. I was talking with my team about it. Ring Central, Agency Zoom has a great integration. I find myself sometimes, I'm like, man, it's a little easier to just text directly from Agency Zoom, like inside of the Agency Zoom platform versus going into Ring Central to text, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I don't know if you have a recommendation on that, but I'm almost like, I feel like it's easier to work out of the one than like keep going back and forth, And then it's like, I'm almost like,
I would agree with you.
That's in there. But if you send it directly from there, it's saving automatically,
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's already in the customer file. It's going to document that for you and stuff like that. And you're not having to have as many programs, websites pulled up. So the more time that we can spend in one platform, the better. Now, I know that's an oxymoron a little bit with when I talk about an AMS, because HawkSoft is truly just an AMS. We're not having all of these, you integrate with who you want to integrate with. That's what makes us unique, and you as an independent agent. But in reality, no tech tool. If we lock you in as an AMS, if we lock you into just our AMS and only the tools that we have, you're not going to be happy with it. We want you to be independent or you're independent for a reason. We want you to stay independent. So make your tech choices the way that you need to in your agency to be proactive that way. So integration is key there. So you got your CRM and everything. Obviously, with you mentioned Form Stack, we already talked about that integrating with HawkSoft and documenting in there. So that's awesome there. And Ring Central. What was the other one you mentioned?
Risk Advisor.
Yep.
Canopy Connect. Okay, awesome. How is that integrating with those with your CRM or HawkSoft right now?
It's not, and I need to do that. So
you need to do
my
that.
seat is getting warm. We have there is something there. I guess it's a good thing I don't fully know this. It means I don't do all this anymore, Shawn. There is a I'm thinking of Risk Advisor to PL Rater. Sorry.
Okay.
Which is
Nope. You're good. You're good.
Tool.
Wait, so Mike, you're talking
it
about
is a
having
different
Canopy
tool.
Connect integrate directly to HawkSoft or Agency Zoom?
HawkSoft or Agency Zoom. So, and I use those terms interchangeably. I mean, HawkSoft has a great relationship with Agency Zoom. And everything, and as I alluded, that relationship's going to get stronger here with some new changes that are coming for the platform, which is great. But it doesn't mean that it has to integrate with both, because if it does, necessarily, why do you need a CRM and an AMS if everything's integrating with both? Make sure it's at least integrating with one of those and the one that you're going to use consistently.
Okay, can I ask before we move on from that point? What is the benefit of having it integrated? And just here's my thought, and I could be thinking about this wrong, but Mike calls me for a home and auto quote. I'm getting all the information from him right over the phone, right into Risk Advisor. That's going right into my CRM and AMS. I'm sending him a Canopy link to collect the deck page. I already have all their information. What's the benefit, and this is probably a silly question, but what's the benefit of having the integration with Canopy Connect is it just that the deck page automatically goes in there?
So that's part of it, yes. The other part is some of those things that are underwriting tables and stuff like that are in part of the deck pages, and things that maybe aren't asked in Risk Advisor, or in somebody's missing that conversation piece when they're taking down the information and plugging it into the system. Yep.
I just want to back up on something that as I'm sitting in my hot seat thinking about all of this, and you talked about the integration, and I think one very important part to hit on is allowing you to work through how these tools are going to fit within your process. And so I'm really excited to see the further relationship with Agency Zoom and HawkSoft, because what we've found in our process is we live a majority in HawkSoft. There is integrations between Agency Zoom and HawkSoft for the purpose that we use it. It's more of a sales tracking tool, the service center, all of that. But from a documentation standpoint, we're primarily in HawkSoft. So what happens is when we get that Risk Advisor complete, that sends it to HawkSoft to create that shell, to create that customer, and then that automatically goes to Agency Zoom. So I may be missing something there if I've missed a new release or something, but that was so far the best way that we figured out. So it goes, we get the deck pages, we fill out the Risk Advisor, because we don't do the Risk Advisor unless we have the deck pages. It goes into, we start the client file in HawkSoft, then that dumps into Agency Zoom to start our automation to add it into our pipeline. And then once we're done with the Risk Advisor, it's automatically going to PL Rater with their new integration. So I think
absolutely.
Am I right in that?
Yep, absolutely. And think of it as the AMS, and some people believe the AMS is obsolete. Here's the thing: the AMS, nothing can ever be deleted out of the AMS. It's always there. You can archive things, that kind of stuff can't be deleted. That's really what we always call the brain or the heart of your entire body inside the organization. So everything kind of like spokes off of that, so to speak. And there are agencies that have the AMS just there as the download, the Ivan's download in the file cabinet. And then they utilize a CRM for everything else. And that's completely fine as long as things are integrating in that sort of thing. But I would typically say what I see out in agencies is more sales-driven agencies are going to be on a CRM, but their CSRs and back office staff live in the AMS.
Correct. Yes. Correct.
So, and that works. And then, of course, for smaller agencies, they may not need the CRM. And I'm not saying don't get a CRM by any means, but check with your AMS, because they may have some light CRM capabilities inside of there to get used to that before you you go in and purchase another tech tool at that point. So it's possible that you could utilize the same system.
Yeah. Just while we're having this conversation, two things I just want to reiterate. Make the process. I remember when it was just me, and then I started bringing on team members and was like, oh, I'm not doing this anymore. I need to recreate the process because it's not just me doing it, right? I literally just took a piece of paper and said, it goes from here to here to here to here, and then created where the tech tools are going to line up around there. I think that's super important. The other thing I want to emphasize, Mike, is what you said of different parts of your journey with the tech tools itself. I mean, I'm a strong believer in this. I've said it before, like get an AMS from day one. Cause to your point, Shawn, I know we've talked to many people who are like, well, I'm just going to use an Excel sheet until I get to so many clients. And then you're 6 months in and you're spending weeks downloading information and putting information back in besides setting that up from the front end. And like I said, I'm all about a CRM. We'd be lost without it. There's no doubt about it. But maybe in the first 6 months, you can utilize some of the AMS capabilities to be your CRM until you graduate to that next level, bring on that next team member, whatever. So just talking from a very specific scratch standpoint, I fully agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had no
absolutely.
CRM for the first 4 months.
Yeah, I think I was the same.
So,
And believe it or not, there's agencies out there that I've worked with that are 30 plus years in the business and still don't have a CRM. And some of that is some of it is a generational thing. They don't like the automation, or they don't like some of the tools behind it, and that kind of. I get it. I understand. But test something out, and see if how it's going to benefit the agency. And so we talked about, doing that tech inventory. And then that next step would be loading it into that spreadsheet to do that gap analysis, what we're actually using. And when you're looking at that, what we're actually using, because most of the time you're only using 20 to 30% of that system. Mm-hmm. And so you doing that, and then what are we not using but should be? And then what do we wish that tech had? And so those are really the three things that we want to list out there, because then that's going to help you, go back to really the next section, which I would generally go back to with education and training. Finding those webinars, finding that list of things that that tech vendor sends out saying, hey, here are the new features. We know with HawkSoft, we do releases, what is it, every week? Yeah. Right now. So, watching that video, going back, or having that champion inside the agency that's like, hey, let's, I need you to go into agency Zoom once a month, once a week, or whatever the case may be, and say, hey, what are the new things that have came about? And I need you to educate yourself. Over here, person A, person B, I need you to go look at your AMS. Go look at Ring Central then at that point, or your VoIP provider. So having different champions inside the agency, because that's going to give ownership to other people inside the agency to bring that back to you guys and your staff. It's not just one person or the owner inside the agency then at that point. But then that helps educate people and you inside the agency to say, hey, you know what? This is the new feature. Let's test it out. Maybe we can get rid of one of these other tech platforms that we have inside the agency at that point. But that, that's kind of going back to saying, hey, what I didn't know this did it. I didn't know that we could use this that way. So
right. And
that's kind of really the whole audit in a nutshell.
Yeah. And I think I said in the beginning there that, set the reminder once a month or whatever to check in with those. And you make a good point. If you have a team member that you can say, do it. Shawn, I'm trying to think what, it was the AI receptionist when the AI receptionist first came out, and it was the shiny object and this and that. And Shawn tested out a few things, and we were looking at different tools, and then we're both on Ring Central. And what do you know? Ring Central came out with an AI receptionist, and I know, Shawn, you went down a wormhole with that. But that's a perfect point of, you have this other specific tool that is just an AI receptionist.
Yeah.
But then you have your existing tools that are coming out with these features that'll solve these problems. And I get it. I am probably the worst out of anybody of like, oh, it's just another email from HawkSoft. It's just another email from Agency Zoom, whatever. But like in that email could be gold that's going to change our process or better the agency or whatever, from the standpoint of processes, tech, all that good stuff.
Great.
Absolutely. And one thing that I'm not sure if you guys have had Billy Williams on the podcast or not, but I heard him speak a number of years ago. And one thing that I'll say is you can't scale chaos. You have to audit it first. And that's why we talk about doing a tech audit, right? But I always remember Billy Williams saying, when you're getting ready to build a house, what's the first thing that you do? And most people in this room said, well, you got to build a foundation. Like you start digging. And he's wrong. Like he keeps saying, no, you're wrong. And like everyone kept saying, no, you build the foundation, you lay the basement, whatever the case may be. He's like, no, you got to start cleaning first. You got to clean the land first, get the lay of the land. And so, you got to start somewhere. And I think that's just, start there with going back to that good old spreadsheet, and getting, your bank statement, your credit card statement out, get that old paper and pencil out and just start writing it out. Clean it up first. That's kind of the big first step.
Yeah, for sure. Shawn, anything else on this that we missed? I think that was really good.
No, that's it. I mean, just because it's a tech conversation, I would say another thing you can do too, privacy, be careful doing this, okay? Make sure it's in a paid version of AI, et cetera. But you can take your bank statements, remove the accounting routing numbers, and put them into a paid Claude version or ChatGPT and tell it to create you a sheet to do the tech audit.
Absolutely.
So that's all.
Yeah. One last thing. I've been sitting here, Mike, trying to figure out how to say this for the last 5 minutes, so I'm just going to say it, and I hope it lands. But for people, a lot of this is overwhelming. And I just want to remind people, and Shawn and I had this conversation in a mastermind group yesterday, a little bit of like, even if you're listening to this show right now, you're doing more than potentially the other people in your town, in your market are, right? There are still successful agencies out there that have filing cabinets, that are writing business, that are retaining their clients. Like, just give yourself a break, because I know it's very overwhelming of well, do I need to add this? Do I need to add that? Like, especially when you're starting to scratch and it's just you and you feel behind and all those things. And so I'm just speaking to those people that might be listening, are like, well, I don't have all that. I don't have this. I don't know how that talks to that. Like, take it one bite at a time. And like you said, clean it up first, then build the foundation. I think that was super good. Mike, thanks so much for taking the time. Anything you want to say before we wrap up here?
No, I appreciate you guys having us on today. It was great getting to chat with you guys, and of course, see you guys across the United States as I travel and stuff. But for those of you guys that want help with the audit or anything like that, we do have that available. That we can always send out the spreadsheet as well, or use again Claude, GPT, whatever the case may be out there. But again, make sure it's paid subscription. You don't want your data out there for anything. So. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, guys.
One last point. Take advantage of the webinars and the meetups that these vendors are putting on. I went to, especially since, Mike, you're on the show today, I'll plug this. I went to the HawkSoft regional meetup in Long Island in the fall, and I've been on HawkSoft for 6.5-ish years now. And well, I know what HawkSoft is. To your point, about 30%. Like, sitting in the crowd, just taking notes, and like, you can do this, you can do that, but like, take advantage of these meetups, take advantage of these webinars that these vendors are putting on, because there's so much gold in there. Mike, thanks again for joining us.
Absolutely.
Everybody, don't forget about the meetup we have coming up in New York City on July 31st. We have just a handful of tickets left for that in New York City. Go to scratchagencynyc.com to check that out. Just another reminder, we moved the community from Telegram to a private Facebook group. So Scratch Agency Podcast, private Facebook group there. And if you were in the Telegram, make sure to join that over there. And we got some new people in there continuing the great conversations around the Scratch world. But thanks for joining us. That's another episode of the Scratch Agency Podcast. Do us a favor, like the show, share the show, and subscribe. Most importantly, remember to dig down deep, believe in yourself, in your own future. We'll see you next week. Take care.